All right. Peace and welcome to the culture right here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in this afternoon. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. First and foremost, let's just hear some words of guidance. We are officially 1 week away from the national midterm elections. And I just want to play for you just a little bit of what our great brother, Reverend William Barber, had to say as he talks about getting power to the poor, to the low income. And I'm going to share with you what he has to say a little bit. We're going to dialogue about it because it sets this whole thing off in the right mood, in the right spirit, and all power to the people. So we'll have that. Plus, let's talk a little bit about this very, very critical case that's before the Supreme Court around the issue of affirmative action in two schools, Harvard and the University of North Carolina, where they're debating whether race should play a factor in school admissions. We'll have that conversation. And then later on, folks, let's talk a little bit about what makes you the strongest. The question is being asked, does adversity make us strong? We'll have the latest developments, scientific developments and study around this issue. That and a whole lot more. Stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. Folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in this afternoon. We got a lot to talk about, so let's jump right into it. First and foremost, let's talk about what's happening with the national midterm elections. Now, there are so many different things that are kind of moving, a lot of different moving pieces. There are a lot of major races that we are going to be looking at. And we're going to do our part here on the culture to just cover some of the big pieces of this national midterm election, which is only 1 week away. Now, there are a number of states that have already started early voting, understandably, and a lot of people, based upon the data, is participating in that. So if you already went out to vote, then thank you so much for doing your due service of being an engaged citizen. So that's what we need. But for those who have not voted yet, certainly there's still time. And of course, election day is 1 week away. And if you're planning to wait, make sure you do have a vote plan, folks. You say a vote plan, all I'm doing is going, yeah, have a vote plan. Know exactly who you're voting for. Tell your friends and family. If you're going to carpool, make sure you connect with all the people that you need to connect with and go out there and do what it do, right? So make sure you do have a vote plan. But the other thing about this is, and we're going to be covering this on a number of different conversations this week and, of course, early part of next week, is what are some of the big things at stake? What are some of the key things that we need to keep our eyes on as we make our way to the polls? And yesterday, I had a chance to just tune in a little bit to Reverend William Barber, the great Reverend from who has been doing, I think, continuing the great legacy of our beloved Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King with Moral Mondays and so many other projects around engaging young people, engaging the poor, engaging low income, engaging those who often feel disenfranchised by the various systems that we are all in part of. And more importantly, getting people engaged, getting people activated. And so yesterday I was listening to my brother, and he pumped me up talking about putting salt in the water. And he was saying that salt is us, that we are the salt of the earth, based upon that great scripture in the Bible, that we are the salt of the earth, saying the people, that those of us who are working to make ourselves better, our communities better, this country better, we are the real flavor, that we need to be in every part of this country, that we need to set a new agenda. I was so inspired to hear from Reverend William Barber that I thought it was just appropriate that as we start this larger conversation off about the midterm elections and getting everybody excited and getting people activated, and more importantly, getting people ready to vote, that we hear some words from our beloved brother. So we're going to hear some of those words. I got my culture crew member, Iman Heath, who is an entrepreneur and activist. She's joining us. First and foremost, Iman, thank you again for being with us. We know that you experienced some loss in the family, so our heart and condolences go out to you and your family at this time. And I really appreciate you being with us this afternoon.
Thank you, thank you. It feels normal and good to be back in routine.
Oh, I understand. I definitely understand. Before we play just a little bit of this Reverend William Barber piece, and I want to make sure that we set this up. I mean, there is a moral, ethical component to voting, right? There's a moral, ethical component to just getting involved, getting activated. You are an activist, right? You've been on the front lines for the issues of police reform. You've been on the front lines talking about issues like women's reproductive rights. But you know, one of the things that a lot of people don't know is like, what is the thing that, what got you engaged? Like, how did you get into that space to say, you know what, I'm going to do something, think about something outside of myself. I'm going to advocate for a cause that's bigger than me. What has been the determining factor for that?
It really has been since day one for me. My first grade teacher, Miss Waddell, love her to death, showed us first grade. And I have been angry about being oppressed since then. Like literally, like I used to make Martin Luther King birthday cakes, make him birthday cards. And when Rosa Parks passed away, you'd have thought she was my real family. Like it's just always been in me. So even growing up in justice, as far as myself, I've always been the taller person in my class. I hate seeing other people being picked on because maybe they were smaller or they look different. I've never been one to stand for anybody being picked on or just inequality, period.
Yeah.
So on top of being Black and facing oppression myself, it has always been there. It's just always.
Right. So it's always been there for you. And when we talk about this, you know, one of the things that when you often talk about activists getting into the fray, and then you see the challenges, right? You might see the police blockades and barricades. You hear the stories that it takes a minute to change policies and all of that. What keeps you going?
If I don't do it, then who will? And I know for a fact I can't do it alone. But I know if I drop out, that may influence the next person to be like, you know what, this is not my fight. I can't do it. Or the person who I may influence or encourage, they may say, well, she's giving up, then there's no point in me fighting. So if we need more numbers than we do to take away. So if I drop out, that's one less person we have to make this change whenever it comes.
Ain't that the truth?
Already outnumbered. We can't lose anymore. Right. We can't lose anymore.
Right. So like yesterday, I was watching Reverend William Barber. I was watching, and you know, we have a number of speeches from him. But one of the things that I was tuned into is here's a man who is overcoming a lot of personal challenges, and more importantly, and I think he is like a sign of a lot of our Black leaders, right? When we see folks on the front line, whoever Black leader that you really show love and respect to, and I'm just saying, whether it's the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, whether it's Reverend William Barber, whether it's Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, whether it's Dr. Cornel West, or whoever the case may be, right? Michael Eric Dyson, or you talking about some of our sisters that have been in this struggle. You know, when you think about those people, and I know for me, like the conversation about civic engagement, getting out to vote, when I think about those people, Iman, I'm thinking to myself, it's almost like they're superhuman. You know, they can become like superheroes because in spite of insurmountable odds, they have always called us to become better. Mm-hmm. They have always compelled us to think higher and to see ourselves beyond what the world has put on to us. And that's the thing that inspires me. And, you know, even I saw, I gotta post this if y'all haven't seen that. There's this video of President Barack Obama that he just did like a couple of days ago. I followed the president on IG. What? And he did it about voting, right? And you can clearly tell he was trying to, you know, to reach 18, like first-time voters, younger voters, and everything. It was such an inspirational little video that he posted, right? He had his own Barack, you know, charisma, his own, you know, sense of humor. And I thought to myself, like, damn, this is really good to get people to come out to vote. This is really good to call people to this level of engagement. And this is why I wanted to share with the folks just a little bit of what Reverend William Barber had to say about voting. It's talking about we know what we need to do and why it's important to vote. I want to play this little clip and then get your take on it, Iman, and then get some take from our culture crew. Ariel, and if we could set this clip up, this is Reverend William Barber talking about the importance of voting. And folks, we got 7 days away from this point. We need to get out to vote. Take a listen. Check this out.
The other thing that is hurting us is in the midst of this, we keep hearing the calls for two things that will not help us: normalcy and compromise. Saving this democracy cannot be a matter of compromise. Getting back to normal is not where we want to get back to. Normal is what got us where we are. Fundamental human rights cannot be compromised. Voting rights cannot be compromised. A basic living wage cannot be compromised. The fact is that there's not a county in this country where a person working at minimum wage can afford a basic 2-bedroom apartment. Giving people a living wage that was asked for at the March on Washington, when the agenda of the March on Washington was a $2 minimum wage, which indexed by inflation, would be $15 today. Historic compromise is what's got us in trouble, y'all. In the first place, we compromised with slavery, and it lasted 250 years. We compromised the humanity of black people and called them 3/5 of a person. Too much of the church compromised. There was a civil war in the church before there was a civil war in the nation. The church split, Northern Methodist, Southern Methodist, Northern Baptist, before there was ever, and in the 1840s. We compromised early on, saying women didn't have the right to vote, couldn't hold office. Did you know that in 1935, when Roosevelt passed the Social Security Act, but in order to get it passed, he had to compromise with some folk who said, look, we'll only go along with it if you make sure women and black and brown folks can't pay in the system. Yeah, it was a compromise. We don't want our women to get too uppity, and we don't want black and brown folk to be equal. And so they compromised. And it wasn't until 1954 that people in the agrarian culture, agriculture culture, and the domestic culture could even pay in the Social Security. How many of y'all know that history? I see some of you nodding. We compromised. And because of that compromise, 50% of even white women couldn't pay into Social Security early on, and almost no black or brown people. This is not the time in America for peaceful negligence and compromise and going back to normal. It's time to expose and divide and make sure people understand the lies and the myths that have kept America from addressing the needs of all her people. Maybe we need to expose the lie that we don't have the money to do this. We have the money to do this. We do not have a problem with scarcity in America of money. We got a problem with the scarcity of will and compassion and mercy and justice. I can tell you where the money is. The money is tied up in greedy corporate interests and a bloated military budget. Well, we spend 54 cents of every discretionary dollar into the war economy and less than 15 cents on things like education and health care. We do not need genteel politics which cover up gross inequality. We need respect, yes, but not respect on the outside for the cameras, while the fundamental disrespect and deliberate policy oppression happens behind the cameras and in the back rooms and in the boardrooms. The Economic Policy Institute says that if America doesn't address what's happening with visionary and social economic policy, the health and well-being, the soul of the nation is at stake. These are economists saying this. If poor and low-income people don't vote and their allies and determine who's in office, and policymakers don't change course from one-shot policy activism, and if we don't face all of these things simultaneously, we will face an even greater economic peril. What we need is long-term economic and social justice policy that establishes justice, promotes the general welfare, and rejects decades of austerity and builds strong social programs that lift society from the bottom. Because if you lift from the bottom, everybody rises. We know what to do. We must vote with our prayers. We must vote with our sermons. We must vote with our protest. And we must vote with our ballots. We know what to do and why we must do it. And maybe God has fixed it so that the oppression has created so much poverty and so many folk with low wealth that it has also, in the midst of the misery, produced a powerful voting bloc. Maybe there's so much pain now that it has actually produced a powerful voting bloc of poor white folk and poor black folk and poor Latino folk and poor brown folk. And I'm not talking about folk that are on the street, living on the street. I'm talking about people, a family of four that makes under $50,000 a year. Y'all know that's low wealth in this country according to the economists. But maybe sometimes Pharaoh goes too far. Maybe sometimes Pharaoh oppresses folks so long until they grow. Maybe sometimes the porch gets so many people on it that something's got to be done. And so here we are today, and there are 168 million voters who cast a ballot in the last general election. But guess this, as I prepare to go to my seat, 58 million were low-income voters. That's 35% of the voting population. In battleground states, according to a study we did called Waking the Sleeping Giants, in battleground states where the margin of victory was only 3%, poor and low wealth people make up 45% of the electorate. And 30% in all the other states. This cuts against the common misinterpretation that poor and low-income people don't have enough power and are apathetic about politics and inconsequential to electoral columns. And fact of the matter is, the truth is, as I move around the country, poor and low-wealth people, along with people of faith and labor and other people of moral consciousness, we are the stone that the builders rejected, that have now become the chief cornerstone and can rebuild this thing called America. We know what we must do. We must tell the truth. We can't shut this stuff down with just a prayer. We got to tell the truth, and we've got to take tenacious action. Look at your neighbor, COVID safe, and say tenacious action.
Bring your mom back into the screen. Boy, oh boy. See, this is why I wanted to start the conversation off with Brother Reverend William Barber, Iman, because I feel like we are at this critical juncture in our sojourn, in our struggle, and in this country, that we need to hear voices that's going to provide sound guidance in a time where there's so much confusion, that's going to serve as a reminder of the power that we have at a time when corporations and other entities and systems that we're a part of make us feel powerless. This is why I love my brother, Reverend William Barber, He kind of got this king swag going on with him. And I really hope and pray. I'm going to say this. I hope and pray that the God just continues to keep our brother in the place that he's doing, because, you know, when you hear a voice of truth and speaking, man, that thing lifts your soul. But I wanted to keep that. But look and listen to what he's saying. And this is why, folks, if anyone say that Black people don't vote, poor people don't vote. Did y'all hear the statistics, the data? We make up 35% of those who registered, 58 million.
That's a huge chunk. That's one hell of a difference if we all get on the same page and vote for what we don't want to support, or hold our vote for those who don't support us. That is one hell of a chunk. It may seem like being a minority, seems as though it's not as many of us, or our voice is very small. No, not at all. Not at all.
It's insulting. It's insulting to the intelligence of morally conscious individuals that Reverend Barber speaks about, that we act as if we don't have no power. It's insulting to morally conscious individuals that we act as if we can't organize, we can't unite, we can't work collectively together for an interest or to meet a certain goal. It's insulting.
Very much.
Absolutely insulting. Look, I got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, I want to get some comments from our online culture crew, and I got one more clip of Reverend William Barber that I want to share with you. That one is about voting. This other one is about who we are. And again, this is just for me and just for us to here on the culture to set the tone of what we can expect and why it's important to go to the polls. But more importantly, here's the important things, folks. It's not just about going to the polls. What we really need to consider is how can we recommit ourselves to the work of building a better community and a better country. Y'all hear me? So if we can go and vote for political leadership, then that means that we can go and work for a better future. So we have to be recommitted at this point. It's easy for us to fall off the wagon, call it quits, say nothing is changing, nobody's listening. Man, this is crazy. I'm going to just focus on me and my family. That's easy. But it's a different thing that after a moment that you have like that, which is a natural moment, that you say, you know what? I can't give up the fight. You know what? Not only am I going to vote, I'm going to start to volunteer my time with an organization that speaks to my passion, or I'm going to start doing this, or I'm going to start doing that. It's an opportunity for us to recommit ourselves to a cause that's bigger than us. We got to take a quick pause. When we come back, more with Reverend William Barber, more with my culture crew member, Iman Heath, and more with you. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
This is our time, our moment to move forward, beyond the gun violence, the hospital closures, the unaffordable housing. Brian Kemp's Georgia for the wealthiest few. Stacey Abrams is looking out for every Georgian. She'll invest our $6 billion surplus in the fundamentals, education, healthcare, housing, and a good living, putting more money in your pocket to build one Georgia where everyone has the freedom to thrive.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
An angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
We've got to stand up. Republicans are banning abortion rights, tearing down democracy, blocking progress. But when Democrats stand together, we win. Because we voted, Democrats stood up for black lives, voting to ban police chokeholds, stood up for black women, putting one on the Supreme Court, stood up for our families, lowering cost of health care and prescriptions and capping insulin, and stood up for millions by slashing student debt. This November, let's stand up together and keep making progress.
All right, folks, we have been having a great conversation, just starting off the discussion with the great and powerful words of Reverend William Barber, a brother who continues to be on the front lines, and more importantly, to activate and organize those who have often been marginalized, the poor, the low income, those who feel like their voices aren't heard. Reverend William Barber has been on the front lines doing this for years. And we just played a brief excerpt of a message that he gave about the importance of voting and why we should do it. And more importantly, the power that low-income folks have once we make it out to the polls. Now, I want to share with you folks just some of the comments that is coming in from our online culture crew, and continue to post your thoughts about this. But this is a little different than just talking about news and all of those topics. This is just to get our minds, hearts, and spirits in the right place. Because we're 7 days from this national midterm election. We don't know what the end result of the election may be. But my hope is, by us getting some words of guidance from our beloved brother, Reverend William Barber, that we will be able to have more clarity, to understand the assignment, as they say, and more importantly, do what needs to be done. And I've been joined here by Culture Crew member Iman Heath, who is an activist and an entrepreneur, to share her thoughts on this. But let's go to the culture. Let's go to the comments here, and let's bring Iman back into the conversation. William, you checked in. William, you said, yup, powerful. Voting block coming in 7 days. Absolutely. Absolutely. Iman, I wonder, because I know that, you know, and I'm so happy to have you on the show a week out from the midterms, right? Because I know that, you know, you're not one to just say go vote without a purpose, right? You have always been the one to say, hey, if we're going to go vote, be clear about who you're voting for and what you're voting for. And right. There has been a number of discussions about young people, you know, possibly not voting in this midterm election, because some of them saying that they're not connected to the candidates. Other folks are saying that the parties are just all over the place and so cantankerous and bickering so much, it takes away from any sense of unity of the country. So what would you say for that generation, the first time voter or the young voter, about this midterm election?
Do your homework, do your homework, do your homework. Usually in the mail, you get a ballot, whether you mail it in or not. You still get a preview of what you will be voting for, what will be on the ballot, and who you could possibly be voting for. Do your research. It doesn't take that much. It doesn't take that long. As long as you scroll on Instagram and TikTok, I'm sure you can find and have enough time to look up what it is and whom maybe in district that you need to vote for, or what questions you need to vote for or vote against. Just do your research. I will say what is causing this desire or want or even care to vote is the results of what voting has gotten us, I will say. From social media and even people I've interacted with, it seems as though the image of politics is what is preventing people from being convinced that they should vote, or even just having the, at least, I won't say respect, but when it comes to those who came before us, who fought for us to vote, just to even, I feel as though it's my due, like I have to, in a way, vote, because the people what they sacrificed before me, the lives that were lost before me. So it's the way politics is being shaped at this time. It's like bickering, like you said, with a teenager. It's the way politics go back and forth. And for younger people to feel they don't feel connected, yes, these politicians are older. You're not going to feel as though they may be able to relate to you. But if you look at that background, and I'll say Westmore here in Maryland, he's a great example as to someone you can connect with. From the same place, has dealt with the same thing as far as upbringing, but you have to do your research. It's worth it. It's going to be worth it. One question I know y'all will probably want the most attention from is making marijuana recreational. So you're interested in that, but let's be interested in everything else as well that matters.
Right. And there are a number of people that's always a big question. And certainly that's going to be on the ballot in states across this country. So again, that's a huge thing, which can change the whole culture from mass incarceration and criminal justice to, the stigmatizing alternative health, health medication. So it's a huge conversation. I'm glad that you brought that up. Let's take a look at what some of the comments are coming in, because folks are excited, and that's what I love to see. So many of our online culture crew members have been excited about this. Let me go to who we got here first. William, my guy. William, you said, yep, powerful voting block coming in 7 days. You're absolutely right. Thank you, William. Janelle, you checked in and said there is nothing radically left or communist about what Reverend Barber, is preaching here. But the high-priced political consultants tell the elected officials to never say the word poor or address poverty.
They don't want to face reality, or at least indulge in reality. Like, let's keep it real. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't say, the lower class. No, say poor people. Put the word where it's meant to be. Don't say, we're going to help them and do this and do that. No, say poor. Say poor.
Say poor. And you know why we need to say poor? We just need to deal with the reality that, guess what? That is exactly what people in our country are experiencing. Poverty, poor. They're poor. They're low income. We can't, look, let's not get into a space, and I've seen this a lot of times when it comes to certain social ills, Iman, that we get into a space that we want to use pretty sounding words to describe horrendous and terrible conditions, right? You're poor.
We compromise our reality for our comfortability. He said we need to stop compromising, and that's what we do. We compromise our reality for being comfortable. Rather than you don't like the word poor, don't attach the word poor to me. Well, $30,000 is according to calculations, that's you're on the impoverished end. So that's poor. Not saying you don't have clothes on your back, or you don't have a clean house, or you don't wash your behind. Don't be offended, Black people, if you fall in the poor category, but that's reality.
Right.
Face reality. Be uncomfortable. It's okay. If you poor, hey, that should be even more of a reason if you make them less than $45,000 a year to go out and vote for the right people.
Absolutely. And I think that is the big part of this discussion is we have to look at the fact that people are experiencing it. And I read something crazy, Mon, just the other day where they said that people now, because of inflation, that a little bit over 60% of Americans, even those who make six figures, are in danger of living paycheck to paycheck. A lot of Americans are in that space right now. Right?
A lot of Americans, especially younger Americans, don't even have $1,000 in their savings account. So I forget the statistic or the percentage, but it's definitely more than 50% of people, I believe, younger than the age of 30 and under, who don't even have a savings account, let alone $1,000 saved on the side. So that's not surprising at all.
Right. Absolutely. Supernova Diecast, you said we killing ourselves instead of healing ourselves. Yeah, we definitely are. And I appreciate you bringing that point up. Sophia Gonzalez, Sophia, my sister, you always check in. You say, yes, it's been reported that our voting numbers are being underreported, but I'm glad Dr. Barber is providing insight of various voting blocks. Sophia, I was feeling the same way as well. You know, if I'm glad he brought actual figures, actual numbers, 58 million, 35%. Like, we need to stop thinking that people aren't engaged. And I think one of the big things, Iman, in terms of the voting piece and the voting data, is that we have this assumption that if you are making a certain income, that you don't care. Like, let's just clear the air. Nobody wants to be in poverty. No one chooses to be in poverty, right? Because we live in a country where they say you could be all that you want to be. Or we live in a country where the narrative is about money and success. Nobody wants to be impoverished. And sometimes I think we take people's financial condition and use that as part of their character. Just because you are impoverished doesn't mean that you are a terrible human being.
Or any less
intellectual. It just doesn't work that way.
Correct.
Say it again.
Correct. I said, or any less intellectual, just because you.
Or any less intellectual.
Yeah.
Hey, look. I was at the gas station literally like 2 days ago. Brother said, hey, man, I've been homeless for like 10 years. Do you have something? I said, brother, I just gave it out. I'm all strapped out, which I really was. So then he said, I looked at your tags and I see that you from Maryland. And I said, yeah, brother, we just transitioned out here. And then he said, hey, man, let me tell you something, man. It's a lot of stuff happening out here. The minimum wage. He starts listing the political and social ills of LA right then and there. And I'm just standing there like, and he's like, yeah, brother, just make sure that, that you get involved and get activated. I've been homeless for 10 years, but if you look at the structure of things, it's hard for me to get back into it. Folks, blew me away. Now, I didn't expect him to not be conscious of anything. I wasn't that. It was just that he was in a situation where he understood not only his situation, but he understood his situation in relationship to the other structures and systems that he's a part of. That's a different level of awareness.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? There's one thing you'd be like, I'm poor. But then you'd be like, you know what? I'm poor because this is happening, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. I try to get a job here, but because I have a record here or because there's this in my life, then that prevents me. Now, when you start to understand the dynamics of the system, the dynamics of how laws are made, you start to understand the dynamics of power. Come on. Just because you don't have the material means don't mean that you are deficient in your intellectual ability to understand what's going on. And I hope that we don't get into a space of just assuming that your financial condition is an indicator of your intelligence or is an indicator of your character?
We already there though, Farajii.
I know. I'm putting out some good energy right now, Yvonne.
and I just hope from us continuing to repeat the same tidbits as far as, you know, making money equal to your brain power, or making someone eligible to be the leader ahead of something that they have no qualifications for. Let's work on not doing that, Black people. Let's work on not doing that.
Exactly. And we don't know how many people that we come around. I know people who have come through some very, very hard times. I know people that have actually been homeless. We don't know the stories of people until we actually have a chance to talk to them and relate with them. But we don't know the stories of people. I know people that lived in their cars, man.
Literally. Gone to work.
Lived in their cars.
Mm-hmm. But you wouldn't be able to tell.
You wouldn't be able to tell.
Mm-hmm.
Or I've known people who have committed some real serious crimes, but they changed their life. And as a result of that, they've been on a straight path. I've known people I know Black men in particular, who have gone to prison for years. I'm not talking about 2-3 years. I'm talking about 15, 20 years, Iman. Personally, I know people like this, right? Come out, got a great income, strong families. They have started a family, and they're working in the community. So when people tell me about all of these other barriers to stop them from not just being a positive influence, but that have stopped them from not getting engaged, I can't accept that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be honest. I can't accept that, just because there have been people who have been down that path and who have been able to excel. But it doesn't take away from the fact that, like, I get it. Sometimes stuff hits people differently, but we all got the ability to go out and do something great. We all got the ability. We really do have the will and the ability. And Dr. Barber, Reverend William Barber, said this: we don't have the will. The same will that the country don't have to make to change its wrongs and make them right in dealing with Black people, poor whites, Blacks, Latinos, and marginalized citizens. We lack the same will to want to get engaged, because we want to make all of these excuses as to why we shouldn't, or why we can't, or why something may not work. We don't have the will, and that stops us. That really stops us. We've lost sight, and I don't know if I said this to you before, Imam, but I was having a conversation with Nero about this, and I was saying to myself, somewhere along the line, Black folks have lost faith. We can talk about resilience. We can talk about being able to get through. But somewhere along the line, when I hear Black folks say something can't be done, or it will never change, or use that type of language, that lets me know you have lost faith.
Yeah. That plays a big part as to what keeps you moving, as far as even being an activist or getting active in your community, even speaking about it to your nieces or nephews. Hey, make sure you go vote, or hey, make sure you be a part of change, or hey, let's go do this and let's get up and do that. Although years and years and years of us not seeing the exact result that we want, the progress can still be made. Slow progress is so much progress at all. And even though our progress don't look like it's the promised land and the 40 acres and mule that we want, we still have to keep pushing to make that progress. Because again, like you said in the beginning, Farajii, if we don't, then who will?
Yep, absolutely. All right, I'm going to get to a couple of more comments from our online culture crew. Then I want to play this final piece from Reverend William Barber and a host of other activists to inspire us to get out to vote and more importantly, get involved. Conscious Thoughts, you said the Democrats have shown themselves to be cataclysmic disaster during this election cycle, but we must persevere through them and see the light to our salvation. Vote, vote, vote. We got to do, and Conscious Thought, Mike, I appreciate that, because we do have to when leadership fails, then the people have to rise up to win. When we see some level of leadership fails, that's when we got to step up to win. Great point. Mike V, you said the argument against removing slavery is that prisoners can fight for labor wages that would bankrupt the system. This could be a knockdown, drag-out brawl if it doesn't pass. Oh, absolutely. 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 Sandy, you checked in and said poor or disenfranchised people outnumber all the bad actors. Vote and let them know we are the majority when we vote together. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. But we got to vote, then go to work.
Yeah, and I have a feeling that this is going to go from it being a racial divide to a classism divide. It's going to go from black and whites and other browns going against each other to we are all on the same page. We all here at the same local Walmart in line hollering and cussing about the sugar being $5 a pound. We all are on the same page, whether it's a different race or not. So I think this is going to turn into a classism type of thing rather than race.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
that's a good point. I think you're making a solid point. It may come down to that. Donald, truth is power. You checked in. Said Donald Trump had people high up as high as the Supreme Court that's willing to do his satanic bidding. We better wake up. White fear is real, and they have an agenda. Thank God for Reverend William Barber. Real Brooklyn. You said, Farajii, that homeless guy has had his reasons why he was homeless. It takes a certain way of thinking to survive in this society, and unfortunately, it's pretty prevalent. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I was told this, and I'm going to go to Reverend William Barber and some others, but I was told that sometimes those who are out in the streets are the most smartest of our people, and that the reason that they're in certain condition is because they just don't know how to accommodate to the systems. Have you ever heard that, Iman?
I've heard that before. You said that. I heard my grandma.
That was the inspiration that came to me. That some of the most smartest and the brightest and brilliant of our people are really the ones on the street, and those of us.
They have that air to the street, literally.
They got the air to the street, and those of us, we kind of like, all right, well, we learn how to accommodate where they learned they couldn't do it, so they didn't fit. They couldn't survive in the current order of things. I've actually heard that, and I don't know why. It's just like, man, it's a weeding out process. It's a breakdown process. It's very, very powerful. Folks, I want to get some final remarks from Reverend William Barber and some others. And we're going to just play just a few moments of this video montage. And I believe this one is coming off of, there was a rally in Mississippi with Reverend William Barber and other artists, community activists, and other folks from the community decided to come together to talk about water issues and so much more, talking about the welfare scandal, dealing with Brett Favre. Powerful, powerful stream that you can find here on blackstarnetwork.com. Make sure y'all check this out. But here's some inspiring words from Reverend William Barber and others from the Poor People's Campaign. Check this out.
Clean this water, free this land, free these people, and keep it public.
When it comes to infrastructure and poison water, this is just the beginning to the end of what's to happen here in Jackson.
The forces that stole this land and water are the same forces that stole our ancestors' lives and labor to develop this very land.
That's right. But one of the great sins of injustice is always waiting. This system was declared an emergency 7 years ago. That means the state government has blocked for 7 years. But there comes a time when we have waited long enough.
How do you expect anyone to be productive when they can't even brush their teeth in the water in their home?
This water crisis has been hard on me and my family.
Long nights after work, being exhausted, coming home to brown water and having to boil several pots of water.
The lack of urgency from state and federal officials seems to be because a large percentage of the population is impoverished.
I was born in Shreveport, raised in New Mexico, and I never thought that moving from a desert where we've been in a 30-year drought to a state where it seems to rain all week, every week, there would be a water issue.
The water crisis in Jackson, Mississippi is not new. the community inability to have clean water is a violation of human rights.
So what does impure water, what does it do? It can cause stomach problems, illnesses, diarrhea. It can cause cancer. It can cause neurological issues, particularly when heavy metals are in it.
Where I live, the water flows pretty clear, but it smells like dogs and fish.
No clean water means no clean clothes, no clean homes, and no food.
It shouldn't be that way in the year 2022.
They treat us like lab rats.
We have to represent ourselves better and let these people know that we're not a byproduct of all of the negative things that they want to place on us, which is why we came up with the Muriel Jackson Strong.
Know that people all across this country that are part of the Poor People's Campaign stand in strong solidarity with the people of Jackson.
So we have to get to it and get busy. Don't go to sleep, wake up, stand up, and let's continue to move this in the right direction.
Get this sick water clean. Clean this water. Free this land. Free these people. And keep it public.
Iman. Couldn't I mean, man. Go ahead, you on mute.
Flint still doesn't have clean water. Did you know that?
Flint don't have clean water. Jackson don't have clean water. See, this is what's the stuff that we got to think about when we go to the ballot.
Mm-hmm.
Big shout out to all of those who came out to the Poor People's Campaign, the Moral Monday, and continue to do the great work with Reverend William Barber. And if you're in Mississippi and you hear the sound of our voice, make sure that you tell your family and friends to go and vote and make sure you understand the severity of this situation. Don't have clean water. Man, and look, too much is on the ballot. Go ahead,
basic necessity. Now, of course, they're not going to put their attention on poor people in poor areas because the taxes, the money, the capitalism of this country is what's also causing the biggest issue. They don't care. If this was in a different county where they contributed more funds to society, however the case may be, it would be taken care of, but not in the hood. No, not with their impoverished people. Of course not. Why the hell would they care? That's the problem. So we can't compromise that anymore. We cannot compromise our comfortability. We cannot.
Absolutely. And even in the great city of Baltimore, my hometown, water issues.
Lead paint still being an issue. I think about 3 weeks ago, they were saying boil the water because what was in it? E. coli, I believe. They said in certain areas, boil the water first before you use it. Even with taking a shower and preparing your food, boil the water first. What?
Let me tell you, Sandy, you bring up a great point. Look at that. Clean water ads used to be about countries in third world countries. How the heck we have this issue in states less than 400 miles for any one of us in this chat? Right. We got clean water issues in the United States in major cities. This is what's on the ballot. This is why we're talking about in voting, but more importantly, this is why we're talking about getting engaged in your government. This is why. Look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, Iman, let's talk a little bit about what's happening with this affirmative action. This is one of, I think, a number of conversations that we're going to be planning to have about affirmative action and how the Supreme Court is looking at this issue, especially when it comes to using race as a metric to determine whether someone should go to school. We're looking at two schools, Harvard and the University of North Carolina, the two schools that are part of this case. So let's talk about the implications. We'll have that discussion. Also in the next hour, we got to talk about the unfortunate killing of rapper hip hop artist Takeoff, who was murdered earlier this morning while at a private party in a Houston bowling alley. And it continues to add to the narrative about the life of rappers, of hip hop artists who are just losing their lives at such young ages over senseless things such as an argument. So all of these things are absolutely important. So stay with us. These conversations are coming up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
We've got to stand up. Republicans are banning abortion rights, tearing down democracy, blocking progress. But when Democrats stand together, we win. Because we voted, Democrats stood up for Black lives, voting to ban police chokeholds, stood up for Black women, putting one on the Supreme Court, stood up for our families, lowering cost of health care and prescriptions and capping insulin, and stood up for millions by slashing student debt. This November, let's stand up together and keep making progress.
This is our time, our moment to move forward, beyond the gun violence, the hospital closures, the unaffordable housing. Brian Kemp's Georgia for the wealthiest few. Stacey Abrams is looking out for every Georgian. She'll invest our $6 billion surplus in the fundamentals, education, healthcare, housing, and a good living, putting more money in your pocket to build one Georgia where everyone has the freedom to thrive.
Folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in this afternoon. If you haven't had a chance to take a look at the discussion earlier in the early part, the first hour of the show, make sure you check us out on the replay on the Black Star Network. But you'll certainly hear some great conversation as we just got some inspiring words from Reverend William Barber of the Poor People's Campaign and what we need to do and why we need to go to the polls in 7 days to make sure that our voices are heard. And he debunks a lot of myths about the fact that low income or poor people are not engaged and do not want to vote. So definitely check it out along with the great commentary that we got from Culture Crew member Iman Heath. Don't miss a word. So check us out at blackstarnetwork.com. Also, do yourself a great favor. Make sure you show your support for Black Star Network while you're there on the site. Show us that you are digging the conversations and, more importantly, the work that we're doing, as we are a Black-owned digital media institution. We're providing digital programming, but that is just the beginning for us, folks, just the tip of the iceberg. And so every dollar, every cent matters when you're talking about building a powerhouse, a space, a platform for information and great content that is culturally relevant and that is news informed and factually based, as the conversations that we have here on the Black Star Network. So make sure y'all check that out. Also, while y'all there online, make sure you download the app for free, and also follow me on all of my social media platforms at The Real Farajii on IG. I'm Farajii on Twitter, as well as Farajii Muhammad on Facebook. I would love to connect with you, love to build with you, and continue to build the great community of the Culture Crew that we are building. So many great people are a part of the Culture Crew. And so I appreciate you following me. I will follow back. As long as we keep on building and keep inspiring, we are all good. All right, folks, let's jump back into this conversation. Again, joining us is Culture Crew member Iman Heath, who's doing an excellent job in her work of activism in the city of Baltimore and across the country. But let's look at this issue, Iman, of affirmative action. This is a big, big Supreme Court case that is being determined as we speak. This is the case where they're looking at whether race should be used as a metric for college admissions. Now, this is what some people have termed, what I saw this in AP, they say that this is the survival of affirmative action in higher education appear to be in serious trouble as we're talking about a conservative dominated Supreme Court because of the question of whether race should be used as a factor for admissions at two schools. We're looking at the school of University of North Carolina and Harvard. And they're wondering about this, whether we should use race among factors in seeking a diverse student body. Now, let me just share with you what Justice Clarence Thomas, the court's second Black justice, who has a long record, according to, if you look at the reports and look at his history, he has a long record of opposition to affirmative action programs, and he takes on very, very strong conservative positions. This is what he said. Take a look at this, folks. He noted that he didn't go to racially diverse schools. If we could put that quote up on the screen, folks, Keenan, Ariel, thank you, sister, bro. He said that he didn't go to racially diverse schools at one point, saying, I've heard the word diversity quite a few times, and I don't have, Iman, I don't want this to get you mad, but he said, I don't have a clue what it means. He also challenged defenders of affirmative action to, quote, tell me what the educational benefits are. Take a look at what Clarence Thomas had to say about this. He said, I've heard the word diversity quite a few times, and I don't have a clue what it means. Tell me what the educational benefits are. Wow. Now, there's a big conversation about this. This is the headline about affirmative action in jeopardy. Iman, what's your take on this? And I want to get your thoughts about what Justice Clarence Thomas said. But what's your take on this situation?
Okay. The Clarence Thomas part has what do you mean? But I'll get to that after this. So affirmative action, it can either go left or it can go right, as far as whether they're going to keep it in place or not. Affirmative action has helped minorities, Blacks and Browns, to have a fair chance or shot at attending school, various schools they may want to go to, right? Used to show the different demographics, and it's also a requirement to reach a certain percentage of minorities who and those who have programs upon the affirmative action movement that benefited from affirmative action. However, on the flip side, it can be used as a weapon to keep the school or university exclusive to a certain color, exclusive to a certain race. I'll say, for example, just for Johns Hopkins, and this is not a fact, this is just an example. Just people walking around the campus, you see mostly Asian people, look Asian, walking around that campus, way more than you see any other ethnicity. So in that circumstance, I'm just saying this as an example, it's not a fact. It can be said that they may be using that demographic or keeping exclusive just for that demographic of people. So it's a double-edged sword, to be honest.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm hoping, I want the Culture Crew, I want y'all to check in on this, because I feel like that affirmative action might be a gift and a curse at the same time, right? To your point. So it's like, we definitely have benefited from being in certain spaces. So like, if you're talking about like a school like Harvard, which is of course one of the top schools in the country and around the world, very elite. would Black people be able to be, if affirmative action wasn't a thing, do you think Black people would be able to get to a school like Harvard? And I think that's the big question, right? I'm surprised to see UNC. I mean, I think UNC is a great institution as well, another great school. But again, on our own merit, do you think we would have would be admitted to a school like Harvard? Let me get your take on that first, and then I want to share my thoughts on it.
I want to be social justice butterfly person is saying, of course, Farajii.
Right.
PA, of course we can. But then the reality of where I live sets in, and it's like, I doubt it. The elite are the elite for a reason. The superior are the superior for a reason. It would help so many minorities just to say, have Harvard on their resume. I went to Harvard, whether it was for 2 semesters or you graduated. That extra push is not about what you know, but who you know. A lot of times, Farajii, and that would help put a lot of Black people in a different space as far as wealth. Just be able to network with different type of people. But no, I without affirmative action, I'm doubtful. The doubtful side.
Well, see, here's the thing out there that I see. I think that we deserve to be in those spaces, but because of racism, right? Because of systemic racism, it has kept us out of those spaces, right? We're not being considered. So affirmative action, I guess a pro of affirmative action would just simply be, hey, you can cut through all of the racism and the red tape, and you can get a seat in the school. So to that end, I'm like, yeah, because this country, and let me just say specifically, schools such as Harvard, who has already came out to say that they have benefited from the transatlantic slave trade. They've already came out to say that part of their history and their founders and those involved in the creation of Harvard have benefited from the slave trade. So you mean to tell me y'all were able to gain benefit, right? And so as a result of that, it's almost like for me, yeah, we do need that. We should be afforded the same opportunities, because why? If it wasn't for the transatlantic slave trade, if it wasn't for the breaking down of Black folks, right, mentally, spiritually, and all of the other ways, then we would be further along. If it wasn't for the great forces of opposition that come from white people, we would be much further along.
What's crazy is in this article, it was said lower courts have upheld the programs at both UNC and Harvard, rejecting claims that the schools discriminated against white and Asian American applicants. I thought to myself, why would anybody think that those two groups, take away the Asian Americans, why would whites feel as though they are being discriminated against? Now, granted, I know with affirmative action, you have to have a certain amount of minorities in your school, and you even get a check. For some schools, you get a check for having a certain amount of minorities in the school. So I'm thinking maybe, let's say, for example, hey, you got to reach at least 30%. As far as your school's demographics has to be minorities. Maybe they feel as though they're being discriminated against, but it's like this white safety net is what I'll call it. Do you feel as though we are intruding on what you feel as though is yours or belongs to you? Like, I don't get it. Because Black people, Farajii, we were one of the first forms of currency. We were literally the stock market. We were stocks and trade. So what? Like the white.
No, but see, this is look. You and I, when you study history, you know this is a pattern. The moment that there are policies that opens the door, or like I say, eliminates the red tape for us for our progress, then you're always going to have some level of white backlash where white people say, see, you giving them something, as if
they don't already have every damn thing else.
As if that, and as if they actually worked hard to get to where they are. And
because your daddy went to Harvard, you are now getting plus 6 figures because your father went to Harvard. But
your daddy goes to Harvard. Look, check this out. Let's go a little deeper. Your daddy gets into Harvard. You don't even apply. You already granted admission because of the relationship.
Yeah.
You don't even have to go through, well, is my son qualified? Does he have the educational requirements? Does he have what it takes to be in Harvard? Who's your dad? That's my dad. Okay, then you already in.
Mm-hmm.
You already in. Black boys and black girls, we got to find a way. And look, I don't see this, and I know a couple of people. I think, let me see who I can find. I think this. Let me make sure I got my brother, because he said it. He feels like it's a handout. No, I don't think it's a handout. I think it's what's owed to us.
Very true.
If we change the paradigm of how we see these type of opportunities, right, for lack of a better word, to not from being a handout to what was owed. What do you owe a people who have been decimated, used as cattle, subjected and enslaved, and then when that period of time, that chattel slavery is over, we're still undergoing great challenges because of Jim Crow or systemic racism, or there is an ongoing onslaught of attacks against these people. That's not a handout. You owe that to us.
America is indebted to African Americans.
Period.
All browns and
Check this out. We probably, and I don't know the history, so for those who do, let me know. We probably literally built the school of Harvard. Designed that joint.
Most likely. Sound about right. With our bare hands? Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Right, designed some parts of Harvard. I don't know. I don't know that history. But my point is, it's not a handout. It's what's owed. What do you owe a people that you built a whole world on?
Very true. And then on top of that, the opportunities that could be completely eliminated, because affirmative action also comes with like college fairs and outreach programs.
Right.
These younger children, not younger, poor minorities who don't have the same resources to even know what an HBCU is, or the resource to get to or go to be able to go to a university or college. I think taking away affirmative action will also decrease the numbers of blacks being in universities, off of just not having the resource, not being able to pay the $65. When I took the SATs, it was $65. You had to pay to take the SATs. And most likely you took it more than once so you can increase your score. So just having that tidbit information to prepare for something like that, to be able to apply, like it'll be way more of a punch in the mouth for minorities if they did do away with affirmative action. We need it.
We absolutely need it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's needed. If that is the pathway to some level of justice, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Now, here's the thing. This is part of, and this is why I think it's important that as much as we have this affirmative action conversation, we should also have a conversation about reparations, because you wouldn't have to have like the reparation is, this should be a part of the reparations talk. You know what I'm saying? Like free admission to colleges, right? To some of your top Ivy League schools for the children of those who were enslaved, for the children of those who you benefited from, whose back you built your world on, your school on, your institution on. Their children should be able to go to your school without worrying about debt, without worrying about if they can, make the cut. No. See, that's what I'm saying. Like the reparations that I think that we should have is, yeah, we can talk about money, but the reparations for me is let my children or let Black children go to some of these Ivy League schools, afford them the opportunity, right, to go to these schools. I don't want just a one check payoff. That's too easy.
Way too
After
easy.
all these years that America has done this to us, all we want is a quick check? No.
A check is a Band-Aid, to be honest.
That's a Band-Aid. No, I'm talking about we need something. We need a level of investment from this country and from corporate America, the educational institutions of this country, that is going to show that, you know what, we're serious about repairing the damage that was done to you. So therefore, we'll give you a certain opportunity. Let's break some generational curses, right? If higher education continues to be unattainable, unreachable by Black people in this country, by Black students in this country, we still got a huge generation of folks who are still going to be first-time college students. If that is the case, then open the doors wide open, bust that joint open for Black youth to go to school, right, in a space and into the institutions that where they can rise. That's a part of the reparation. I don't like the money. Again, money is one thing, but I'm talking about that long-term investment. I'm talking about those opportunities. I'm talking about the ability to network. I'm talking about the ability to learn. If you're talking about like Harvard, you're talking to Yale, you're talking to Cornell, you're talking about Cornell, you're talking about MIT, you're talking about Stanford, you're talking about some of these top colleges, you owe Black folks. You owe.
Admissions has to stop carrying it as if it's a country club. This
Right.
is not exclusive to a certain kind or type of person. A university is not a country club. That's the part that those that being superiors need to understand. It's not a country club, but again, the white safety net is let Harvard get to a 50% minority demographic. Then I'm sure, and just how it does with a college degree, Harvard, the greatness and astonishment of Harvard, always good. The quality of it is going to go down. Just how now that Black people, especially and the minorities as well, who have gotten their college degree, a college degree is now like a high school diploma.
No,
they want you to gain all this debt to still work $15 an hour. I've seen it. Trust me, I've seen it on the websites, job applications. So it's Harvard won't be the same Harvard and big name that it is if they did allow a certain amount of us to get there. It's going to, and this is just how it happens as far as economics, may devalue the school as a whole because now more people have access to it. But again, this is not a country club.
No, not at all. Not at all. And you know, Real Brooklyn, I saw your message. You said nothing is owed to us, brother. Absolutely nothing. I disagree. We built this country.
I wonder why they feel that way. Like what makes you feel like
share your insight on that, bro? I would love to hear it.
Yeah.
I would love to hear it. But no, they do owe us. Because reparation is about owing. Like you repairing the damage. You took from us everything.
Our culture, our language.
Our culture, our God, our language, our education, our sense of independence. You broke us down.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, you took some of our lives. You took for our lives years. And that's the thing, Iman. Years. You took our lives.
Centuries.
Centuries, right. For centuries. You broke our families up. We still trying to restore the damage as a result of, you know, being enslaved with families and all of that, and how the slave master broke the family up or took the father out of the family unit, split up the children.
And it's still happening.
Rape the woman or made the woman feel powerless. Come on, man. No, they owe. They owe, bro. They owe. I don't see it. And I'm like, it's not like, oh, we don't. No. See, and y'all should know me by now. We can't let people off the hook.
We can't compromise.
And we can't compromise. This ain't the moment to compromise, bro. This ain't the moment to compromise. We can't let people off the hook. You can't let white America, or America rather, can't be let off the hook for what it has done to Black people. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I mean, even to this day, with all of the talk around social justice and all of this stuff, we can't even pass certain bills to address this issue. So this country has yet to fully, and I'm talking about comprehensively, Iman, say, we're sorry, and this is what we're going to do to repair the damage. How long did that reparations bill sit in the House with our brother, HR 40? How long did that bill sit without any real traction? For 30 plus years. 30 plus years, and nobody has had a conversation about, now it's getting some traction. Now it's part of is now part of the national vernacular that this is a way for us to repair the damage. Let's have a conversation about reparation. But for 30 plus years, 40 years, we weren't talking about this. And guess what? We're still suffering as a result of what happened to us in the transatlantic slave trade. We still trying to recover.
Even psychologically.
Oh, come on, Iman.
We have passed down psychological damage to ourselves for generations.
For generations.
And we have people who are not attentive to what we do need to correct, so we don't pass it on to the next generation. It's way bigger than just what happened to us as far as materials. Our mind, even believed in and the God or the way that we knew to praise, whatever the case may be, all of that was you took a people and literally stripped them down to nothing. Even the food we were accustomed to eating was taken away, and we were given literally the pig shit that they didn't want to eat. Right. So to say our health, that comes from eating those type of things we're getting used to, high blood pressure and high cholesterol. Like, it's more than just physical. Us as a people, physically, it's owed to us. It's owed to us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very quickly, Tony G, you said stop having a victim mindset. Folks, this ain't no victim mindset. This is the absolute truth. There are groups of people in this country today who would be asking for reparations, and they have undergone less injury, less damage.
I don't give a damn if a Black person is making $150,000 a year, $200,000 a year. They are still owed to what was done to the people before them. How the hell could you say no, we're not playing victim. We are victims. This is not it's a whoa, feel sorry for me moment for Blacks. No. We really are the victims, and we are still that. Redlining is still a thing. It's just hidden. We still made a nod for relief funds from COVID with Wells Fargo and Bank of America. It's still happening. So what kind of victim do you want to say we are? If you don't feel like you're a victim, that's great, that's awesome. But reality is we are victims.
And we are victims, we have victimized, and we become, in some cases, the perpetrators because of our victimhood, right? Because hurt people hurt people. So when we talk about affirmative action, right, we're talking about, okay, creating creating policy that opens the door for Black folks to gain some way, shape, or form without going through all the hoops and fire. And guess what? I don't know if I'm against that. I'm gonna be honest. Like I'm thinking about what Harvard may be thinking about. Like I said, UNC is thinking about. But no, race is a factor. You can't have a conversation. See, this is part of the thing. We want to have a conversation about starting on the same level when we didn't even get a chance to get into the race. We didn't even suit up. We ain't got no shoes on. We didn't even get outside to walk to the damn track. And then the gun was let off. Pow! Everybody else is running, and we just had to jump in. We got to put on our clothes. We got one shoe on, and we gotta run. And then the expectation is, well, why you can't succeed? You know what I'm saying? Like this it's not fair. When did we get a fair chance?
There never was
I mean,
a fair
seriously.
chance. There never was a fair chance.
We didn't have a fair
y'all
chance.
now.
No other people undergone the same type of treatment that Black folks undergone. I don't care what you think. That didn't happen to the same way that the Jewish people had. It's not the same way that the Christians had, that white Christians had. You ain't the same. It's not the same. The struggle ain't the same.
Not at all.
You know what I'm saying? Like this is serious. Like this struggle, this thing is 400 plus to almost 500 years in the making. And
It's
we're still
systemic.
suffering.
It's active. It is still active. Ain't a damn thing changed. Then just got softer or made us more comfortable. Now I can eat at Cactus. I could eat at Cheesecake Factory with you rather than having to sit in a certain section. Or I can drink the same water fountain from you than the dirty one that doesn't no one wants to use. That's barely equality. That just looks like equality and makes me feel like I'm equal, but that's not the case whatsoever.
Nah, you're absolutely right. Let's go back to some comments. And Real Brooklyn, you saying some stuff, bro, but I'm not vibing with you right now on that. Janelle, you checked in and said Farajii white fear won't let them teach real history because it might cause discomfort. Approaching affirmative action wasn't established as reparations as they're still killing it. Yeah, it wasn't that. And there's always that white fear, right? That you know, if we give them something like this, that they might actually excel. We are one of the most resilient, if not the most resilient people on the planet. That we could undergo all of this, still produce a president, still excel in many areas. You know what I'm saying? On all of that. So it's a very real fear. Janelle, thank you so much. Jawan, you checked in. You said if they could pay slave owners for the loss of their slave labor, how do you figure this nation doesn't owe us for what was done to our people? It's not a victim mentality. It's recognizing reality. That's all it is. Do you pay? What about those when we dropped the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki? You had to pay for that. America had to come and had to repair the damage that was done to those two cities and to that people. Everybody else gets paid. Everybody gets something. And Black folks who built this country, blood, sweat, and tears, we supposed to just move on, look past it. Come on, man.
Get over it.
Get over it.
Happened a long time ago. Let it go.
Come on.
You're not being,
better now, though.
Are we? You're not being rich no more.
And look, people say, Iman, we better now. Are we?
We better since when?
Are we better now? Yes, we can say we made some gains, and I'm not taking diminishing or throwing shade on any of the personal gains, but we're still trying to fight for basic human rights, man. We're still talking about in a land of democracy, we're still talking about protecting our right to vote, which is considered to be a great what is the word? Incentive of being a citizen. It's a part of our citizenship. And we still got to create laws to protect the simple right to cast a ballot. We fight for every damn gain in this country. We got to fight for it. Somebody got to die for it.
It's never a peaceful fight, though. And it's never peaceful. It's never easy.
It's never a peaceful fight. It's always, we scratching, right? We dying. We got to give so much for just so little.
For the basics.
For the basic things. Like, you know, people act like black folks are just wilding out. Like, black folks be asking for small stuff like, yo, just let me go to the bathroom. Let me vote.
Let me get
Let
paid
me
the
get,
same
let
amount
me
that
get a
he's
home
getting.
loan. Let me get a home loan. Let me get into a college, man. Let me just go to college. We gotta fight for every damn thing. Come on, y'all. Y'all know. Y'all talking about, man, we moving past this, a victim mentality, victim mindset. They fighting every day, bro.
The debt collectors call you every day, right? The debt collectors gonna make sure they change their number to get to you, right? So why wouldn't we be the same way? Collect our funds, opportunities, policies, principles, whatever need to be put in place. It's time to collect. They owe up. There's no way around it.
No way around it. Andre, you said Uncle Roro and Professor Carr break it down perfectly. Affirmative action benefits white females above all others. It benefits, it may benefit them, right? And I get it because of the politics behind it. But it doesn't mean that we aren't afforded of having certain opportunities so we can get further along. It's just so happened that white females are kind of lumped into the struggle that we're lumped into. They're certainly two different struggles. You can't compare the struggle of white women.
I don't even understand that. Like, why are
You know
y'all
what I'm
here?
saying?
It's not
You
the
can't
same
compare those struggles.
Not at all.
So, but it's still like affirmative action is about creating policy that opens the door for Black people to be in predominantly or all white spaces, right? Where we don't have to, that our race does play a role into it. And I get it. Some people say, well, it should be our merit. But that's if you were on the same playing field. Like, for example, and this is interesting. This is why I think it's interesting that Clarence Thomas even said this, because he's like, well, what's diversity? But guess what? Somebody, Thurgood Marshall was there before you. You had to benefit from that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You had to benefit from that. You can't have a Supreme Court, 9 justices, and that's supposed to quote unquote reflect the people of the land.
When
and you ain't got no Black people.
Same background, that doesn't make sense at all.
Nah. Nisa, you said no one has had and continues to have the same systemic smear campaign that Black people have had. No one. And so it's crazy. No one, folks. Absolutely no one. Thank you, Nisa. Shalinda, you checked it. We can't catch up 100 miles behind with Jim Crow never ceasing. It never stopped. They just got better while doing it. It never stopped. It really never stopped.
It just got blurry.
It just got blurry. And we got a few trinkets now, right, to kind of keep us distracted a little bit. But it really never stopped. We are like, look, when you look at the wealth gap in this country, and there was that study that was done just maybe about a year ago, 2 years ago, that showed that in order for Black folks to meet the same wealth equivalent as white people, it would take us over nearly 200 years.
200
that's
years
if white people, that's if, and look how crazy it is. Because each year, wealth goes up and up and up and up. So it would take over like 200 years, and I'm not making this up, folks. You can just take a look at it. But you're talking about all this time, and that's if white people stay in a stagnant position for all those years, then we can catch up. But if they're moving forward while we're still moving forward, the wealth gap never closes.
Yep.
So what are we saying? So should we not be afforded some opportunities that they don't get, that they've already benefited from? No. That's just, hey, bro, that's part of the owing package. That's part of, you know what I'm saying? Like that's, you owe us that. Good point. Thank you, Shalinda. Mike V, you said apartheid was bankrupting the system. It had to come to an end, or else the system would collapse on itself, on top of the fact that it was a national security issue when competing with the Soviet Union. Absolutely.
Hold on, quick question. I want to ask our online culture crew. Yeah. Are we afraid of the system collapsing? whether it be the criminal justice system, the social justice system, or the social economics period. Are we afraid of that collapsing? If it does, what the hell is that going to do to us? Because we're not the ones on top.
Yeah.
We're not going to fall.
No.
What the hell are we afraid of?
Right.
Stop compromising.
Right. Absolutely. My guy, Real Brooklyn, you said, Farajii, no one is saying to move on, brother. We overcome by being financially powerful. You have had shows that advocated for that. Come on now. I've had shows that advocated for that, but I'm not taking, I don't want us to get so confused that we operating as if we're operating, even if, let me just say, we could be very clear. We can become financially powerful, but it still takes us getting some opportunities. Jay-Z, Oprah, any Black person that you think is financially successful, right? But they did not get there on their own. Now, we can believe the self-made, I'm self-made, I did. No, you aren't. No, you aren't. You aren't. No, you aren't. If you are a Black person, you making, even Kanye West, whatever the case may be about him, the fact is he was not there on his own. And we see that because there were major brands behind him that contributed to his wealth, right? So even when we're talking about being financially powerful, there are still opportunities that were afforded that needs to be afforded to us. You know what I'm saying? Because otherwise, right now, the way the banks are moving, the way that we earn money, it's not the same. It's not the same. When we look at how much does the Black woman earn compared to her white counterpart, it's not the same.
At all.
How much does the Black woman earn compared to white men? Certainly not the same.
Even worse.
So when we talk about being financially powerful, how are you going to be financially powerful, bro, if you're working in a system that don't even see your value, your worth? We always talk, Iman, about, hey, tell them, go to the table, have a seat at the table, and you got to show people what you're worth. The system do not show Black people what we're worth. The current system that we're in, it just doesn't show that. What are we worth?
And that's the question that America usually poses. When saying, hey, let's have them sit at the table, well, what the hell? That's exactly what is asked upon us. What are we worth? So yeah, financially powerful, we definitely need to get there so we can have a seat at the table, even be a chess piece on the table. I wholeheartly agree with that. However, we still need some type of help to even get there.
We all need help. We literally need help. And if we and as we close this, and I want to get to our final conversation, we got to take a quick pause. But when we talking about getting certain opportunities, we need the help. You know what I'm saying? And it's not wrong. Let's look. If America is serious, if America is really serious about repairing the damage, if America wants to kind of bring us into a better space, give us some land. This is what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said. He said, give us some land of our own, support us for 20 years, and then let us go, and we'll take care of the rest. The thing is, you still are requiring us, you still require some level of support, right? Because you put us in this condition. So we're not going to absolve you of the responsibility to make things right with us. But we're not asking for you to keep, supporting us and always affording opportunities. But we are saying, look, it's like startup money, right? When you go to get your loan from the bank for your business, when you go get to talk to a venture capitalist, they give you that seed money. That's what we need, seed money. Get something started. Once we get on our feet, then you don't have to worry about us anymore, right?
Yep.
But that's the place that we haven't been at. We're not at that place yet. This country is not at that place yet. Hopefully it gets there. to the country
Y'all
for the
don't
country's
vote, y'all
benefit.
don't vote, it's only going to get worse. We're only
If
going
we
to
don't get involved, no, it's going to get worse. But if
Yep.
we're talking about putting out, if you're talking about supporting us, and you're talking about getting our condition better, the country needs to give us some seed money, give us some land, give us some opportunity. Say, okay, you want your children to go to college? We'll make sure they go to college. They can go to some of the best colleges that we have to offer. Cool. And then check this out, Iman. When we start building, don't interrupt the progress. Don't let your white fear get in the way where you want to take us down again.
That's going to be there, Farajii. And you know that, just according to history. We never built our own and it just be left alone and to be chill. Absolutely not.
Absolutely.
So we also have protection. I believe you discussed this before. Protection from the government. Hey, you think y'all can come over here and I'm not going to say exactly bomb. I'm not going to talk about the Wall Street massacre. However, we need to have protection from them as well. We don't have most of the guns and whatnot. Y'all do. Even though it seems like
police force.
Y'all got
police forces. You got the Army, the Navy. You got all of these law enforcement agencies.
We need contracts
that can be used against us.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if we talking about getting some land, getting college, doing all of these things to lead to our progress, then that needs to be protected. Now you're absolutely right. It needs to be protected in some sort of institutionalized policy, law, something to protect us, to allow us to do what we want to do without interference.
Right.
It's only right. It's only right. That's justice. That would be justice. But we got to ask, is that really what is America going to do right by us? That's not, right now, we're not saying it, but she can turn the turn the corner. If she did right by us, maybe her future will look a little brighter. That's all I'm going to say. If she did right by her former slaves, maybe her future will be a little bit brighter, because it ain't as bright right now. Looking pretty grim. All right, look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come back, Iman, I want to get your thoughts on the unfortunate killing of Migos member Takeoff, who was shot and killed in a Houston bowling alley earlier this morning. We'll talk a little bit about that and the implications that has on the culture. So stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause to too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
When we invest in ourselves, we're investing in what's next for all of us. Growing, creating, making moves that move us all forward. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. Always happy to connect with so many of you in our chat. Make sure y'all join our online culture crew, folks. We are always talking about something. Man, I see the conversation talking about from politics to reparations, talking about voting. Everybody is voting. Y'all keep me informed. As we're having the show, I'm not able to see some of the news that come across the wire. And so, I enjoy, reading the comments and just keeping up with the discussions in the chats, just to make sure that I'm staying, as relevant and on point as possible. And we even talking about, Imam, folks are talking about, I see LaShonda. She talking about, I'm taking orders for cobbler.
Thanksgiving is coming.
LaShonda, holler at me. Holler.
Do your thing, girl. Do your thing.
Started taking orders for some cobbler. She like, hey, since I got a couple of hundred people in here,
let me go ahead. Let's go.
I love it. That's the community, though. That's what we do. That's the culture crew, man. Big shout out to all of them, man. LaShawn, I got you, sis. I just thought that was hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. But thank you. But on a much more serious note, if y'all were awoke to some very, very hard news, especially for those of us in the culture of this generation, and Nira woke me up and was like, Farajii, guess what happened? And I said, what? Takeoff was murdered. Takeoff is 1/3 of the members of the major, super successful hip hop group Migos. Dead at 28, he was shot in Houston at a bowling alley at a private party earlier this morning. Police say that the shooting happened as a result of some altercation that he was involved in that also included his other Migos member and family member, Quavo. And Takeoff was apparently in the midst of that altercation, a gun was pulled out and he was shot in the head. As a result of that, there are stills that are being circulated online of him lying on the ground. And it's very, very sad. Very, very sad. Brother was just 28 years old. And it just speaks volumes about where we are with the music. I don't know if we can attribute this to being a hip hop beef. There's no beef. I mean, they were playing, I think they were playing dice or something. They were playing some dice games or something.
It's a lot of stories saying that he may not have been participating in the dice game. He was just a bystander. He stood up to see what's going on with the commotion. and one guy that was from his camp was shooting and then shot him by mistake, and then the guys who were shooting at him is actually what hit him in his head, and he was pronounced dead on the scene. It's a lot of stories going on right now, but I just for African Americans, when PNB Rock was murdered, we saw circulation of his dead, lifeless body, and him bleeding out on social media. Takeoff, unfortunately, this happened to him, and it's on social media. I don't know what's up, and some of y'all hate when I say this, but I don't know what's up with you niggas who take videos and pictures of lifeless bodies, whether a celebrity or not, and post on social media. What the hell is wrong with you? They have family members. They have nieces, uncles, nephews, cousins. Nobody wants to wake up and to see how their family member passed. It's indecent as hell. I don't know who raised y'all or who babysat y'all, but let that be the main thing that we stop doing as a culture. Stop putting that shit on social media. Have some type of respect. You post RIP Takeoff, but you reposted him laying. I unfortunately caught a picture on my timeline. It's like a picture of his body laying there in the hallway or some type of tunnel of the hotel. It's not okay. Yeah, that is not okay.
Hey, look. I'm with you 1000%, Iman. When I saw the video footage of PNB Rock at Roscoe's, like, I remember having this conversation, and then I was just scrolling, and then I literally threw the phone. I said, I can't see this. I can't watch that. So to your point, yes, that is like people, people always like, well, people need to know, or it's like,
you can type it. You gotta
right. You can type it. You can just post a picture.
His head was wide open. Like you don't need
right. Like you don't have to. It doesn't. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And I saw the same video. And you know what? Let's keep it real. TMZ. You know what I mean?
Who is TMZ ran by black people?
Oh, come on now.
Come on. Let's dig a little further. That's why it's careless when it happens to us. They quick to put it up. Think about it.
Yeah. But TMZ is a source. TMZ is, they put out that type of news with the salacious details and with the very, very, graphic pictures. I remember when Kobe Bryant died.
And
you know what I mean? Like TMZ was like one of the first news sources that I got that information when Kobe died and Gianni and Gigi died.
Yeah.
They showed pictures of the grave of the crash site. Like, this is where Kobe Bryant's body was and all. And I was like, damn, that's a whole different, but that's the culture, right? That's the culture that we're living in, where we love to see it. Like if we don't see it, it's like we don't believe it. You can't just say so-and-so died. It'd be like, let me see the picture.
Stop lying.
Right.
Why would I be lying about something like that?
Yeah. But I think even more to that point of, these young brothers, in the LA Times, they did a piece around rappers in particular who were killed. In LA, over the past 2 to 3 years, there have been a number of rappers, PNB Rock, what's the other young brother that was killed? He inadvertently put his address on social media. Pop Smoke. He was killed in Hollywood in West Hills. I mean, you have all of these rappers, Nipsey, of course, like you have all of these hip hop artists. And I think I came across, and somebody, y'all can check me on that, but they said over the past year, it's like 200 hip hop artists that has been killed in not just LA, but around the country. And Young Dolph, all of these. And for this case of Takeoff dying, if you're not familiar with Migos is one of the most successful hip-hop groups in history. Their song, Bad and Bougie, #1 on the charts across the board, billboards and every chart. Their members, Quavo, Takeoff, Offset. Offset is married to Cardi B. That's her husband. Like in real life.
Not social media.
Not social media wedding. I'm talking about in real life. They actually, and I'm sure you know, Iman, they were even beefing with Offset for a minute because he's doing his own thing, and there's a lot of controversy around that. So I can only imagine. So first and foremost, our prayers and condolences go to the family of Takeoff, because I can only imagine with Quavo, who was there to see one of his own getting shot and murdered like that. He's already experiencing the separation of another family member, because they are all family, of Offset. I could just imagine. And it's really, let's talk about the level of senseless violence that continues to plague Black men. Even though we make money, we get the notoriety, but somewhere that element of danger continues to be lurking around, Iman. That's the element of danger. I want to go to a couple of your comments, of folks' comments who are checking in about this whole situation. Lana, you said, can we talk about this? The second rapper shot in Houston from out of town, and didn't a jeweler die a few weeks ago in that same location? I'm not familiar. So if you're from Houston, I'm not sure who that person is, Lana. But if that's the case, whoo, wow. Dirty Reds 76, you said it's sad, but you got to move different when you're in the light. Absolutely. I'm starting to just really, if you're a hip hop artist, or if you're an aspiring hip hop artist, and you are in those spaces with other Black folks, man, it's good for the gram that you in certain spaces, that you hanging out all night. But after a while, it should be a situation where you make the best choices, use the best of intelligence to take yourself out of those places that could potentially be life-threatening. And it's just sad that brother lost his life the way he did. Chris V, you said, did anyone catch Gilly the Kid talk about how people are so quick to take their phones out to post the deceased and injured online for likes instead of trying to help? I didn't catch that, Chris, but it's a part of our culture. And one of the things that I've learned about human tragedy, especially in this day and time during this culture, whoever gets the news first, it's like in the news business, right? If you get the scoop, the breaking news, the exclusive, same thing for our these big cultural moments. If somebody gets shot and killed, or something terrible happens, whoever can get the news first, and then your social media standing starts to rise as a result of somebody's tragedy. So it's very, very sad. Great point, Chris. Thank you. Sandy, you checked in and said, I remember when I lived abroad, and on the news, they showed dead or mutilated Black bodies every day. As an American, it was shocking to me 20 years ago. Now we're all desensitized to it. Sandy, I remember that. I remember that was one of the things. I mean, of course, we could talk about, the power of the image, with the movie Till Out. That was one of the big reasons why the mother of Emmett Till, Mamie Till, wanted to have her son exposed so she can show the world what racism has done, But in this case, when you're showing dead bodies, blood, people's final moments on this earth in real time, it does something to you, man. I remember seeing the video of Philando Castile. I remember seeing the video of Eric Garner. I remember seeing the video of so many others. When you see this stuff, you do get desensitized. You do feel like, okay, because it's becoming so common, and because of the medium, the camera, it doesn't allow you to, it kind of it forces you to look at things differently because we look at movies and television through the lens of the camera, right? But we know it's like something psychologically is inside us to say, this is not real. But when you see real life events happening through the camera, real moments of people dying, there's still that separation that exists that says, quote unquote, this is not real, or this isn't as bad as it looks. I don't know.
My question is, how can we undo so much from being desensitized? How can we get back to being?
I don't know if we can get back.
You
know what? I've asked myself that question too, Iman, and I'm gonna be honest. I don't know if we can get back because social media is so prevalent in our lives, right? It's on constant, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. People often say, well, what about the 24-hour news cycle? We're really not tuned into TV that much. But we're tuned into, I would say, and I might be wrong, but I would think that we're tuned into our phones more than we are to TV nowadays, right? That's just me just taking an unscientific poll.
Yeah, TikTok is the new TV now.
You know what I'm saying? We're probably tuned in. We probably spend, if you look on, and every phone is equipped now, where you can actually see how many hours that you are on a certain app, certain platform. It will tell you, hey, you've been on Facebook for 6 hours and 20 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Like, it will tell you your daily tallies every single day. So I don't know, like if we can put this genie back in a bottle, like, I don't know. I really don't know if that, because now it's like, we don't just want to see it. We want somebody to be damn CSI to come all up close to the camera, see the blood, and you know what I'm saying? Like, move from in front of the camera. I want to see the body as the final life of breath leaves. And I mean, it gets into a very dark place in our humanity when we want to see it like that. See, if we and that's why I said there's something about the lens, like, even though we can be, even now, like, we can be personable and all of that, and people feel like they can connect to us, and I'm glad that they do, but it's still a barrier.
Right. I would hope to think that we can't just walk down the street, see a dead body, and just go, damn, that's unfortunate, and keep walking.
Like, if you really worked in that, I hope so too. And I know for those who work in healthcare, like, if you work in healthcare or law enforcement and you're exposed to dead bodies, I'm sure you probably never wish you saw that, even though it's a part of your profession, right? Like, and when I've seen dead bodies, I can't unsee that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's how much of a print it makes on your psyche, on your thinking, on your brain, that you can't unsee it. Once you've seen it, if you've seen a person shot in the head, you don't forget it.
Not at all. Like, I think go up to caskets. Like, I
would rather see a person in a casket, because at least
I can't even handle that part. Like, I don't want to see you dead. If I've known you,
right, it's hard, man. Like,
yeah, no.
If you know the coroner or the mortician, is that the person? That's the person, right? The mortician.
I know the coroner. I think it's who grabs the body. The mortician.
Yeah. I think the coroner. But if you go to the funeral home and they prepare the body, there's a reason why they prepare the body for the viewing, right? Just because it's graphic. It's like, once death is set upon the body, you start to look different, literally. You know what I'm saying? And when you go to an open, the viewing or the open casket funeral, depending on who does the preparation of the body, it can be even more traumatizing. I've been to a funeral where the person didn't look like the person they lived, and the family was livid. The family was like re-traumatized, Iman, because now not only did they lose a family member, but now they're burying somebody that don't even resemble the family member.
Yeah.
Livid. They were livid. I was like, dang.
And that's one thing, black folk, I will say about us. We don't play about who got the body or who's doing the body. We culturally,
Right.
yeah, we don't play them kind of games. Because that can be a fact. If you've known a person to be alive and happy and vivacious, and then you see them in a casket and they look like the worst that could happen, but it's
absolutely.
It matters, man.
Absolutely. So, you know, our condolences, our condolences go out to them. Real Brooklyn, you checked it and say, day I asked the question, what in the hell were they doing playing dice in the hood, especially after making it? This was a private party from what I read, Real Brooklyn. This was a private party at a bowling alley. So this wasn't I don't know who the party was for. Iman, do you know who the party was for?
No.
So if there was a private party, then, you know, I mean, shit, man, you could be anywhere and jokers just start playing dice.
Very true. Very true.
You don't always know who's in the building either, who's in the room.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like if you got people in the room especially if you got like hip hop stars like Migos coming through, you know what I'm saying? You don't know who's in the building and all of that stuff. Like it's hard. It's hard. Like and a lot of these, I think a lot of artists now are having different conversations among themselves and their colleagues. Like, yo, I don't even go unless I know there's security, unless I know that the space is legit. Like they are not now. There's talk that there aren't like showing up at these parties, like these hood spaces, quote unquote. They're not doing it anymore because they're like, bro, I can't wear my jewelry. I never forget one year I was broadcasting on a Radio 1. I was on a Radio 1 show in Baltimore, and they had this contest, and this was when 50 Cent was like super hot, and 50 had told the radio station as part of this contest, do not send me into, not lying to you. He said, don't send me into the hood of Baltimore. Send me someplace else. Now, the contest is for a radio station that caters to Baltimore City. So they literally had to send him to Baltimore County because he was like, I am not coming to Baltimore City with jewels in my entourage. Y'all crazy. Like, no, they're not having me a part of this contest. So they made the adjustment so he could be a part of the contest. But that was years ago. So that just goes to show me that these guys, as much as they like to talk that tough, they know you are a target. You are a target. You walk in the hood with jewels on and all that stuff, and you know, nobody ain't gonna mess with me. And you like 100 pounds with a bag of nickels in your pocket on a wet day. You ain't coming through the hood.
As big as he is.
And that's what I was like. And this is what the general manager told me. He was like, yeah, 50 ain't coming to Baltimore City. He was only gonna come to Baltimore County. We had to put him in at a house that is like, you know, a really nice house. The security is well there, all of that. I was like, I thought this was 50 Cent. But dude has been shot 9 times, so I get the paranoia, right?
Some psychological trauma there. Very true. Very true. Very true.
So I get it. So I'm making a point that we just got to create, and I don't know how we end this part of the culture, but I just know that this can't continue to happen, where Black men are losing their lives because of some music or because of some of their status or because of robbery or because of jewelry and all of this stuff. This can't continue to happen no more. It's so sad. It is so sad. The hip hop community is mourning today because of this. Regardless of how you like their music, these were young brothers that were just trying. They were doing their thing. They were doing what they love. They were doing their art. And it's so sad. It's really, really sad. And my heart and prayers, man, my heart is a little heavy for this because they didn't have to lose. They didn't have to lose their life like that. So sad situation. Iman, I appreciate you, sis. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I missed y'all.
I missed you too. So we'll look forward to reconnecting, God willing, on next week, and God willing, we'll see you. And more importantly, make your condolences to you and your family at this time.
Thank you. It's appreciated.
Absolutely. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. Thank y'all for tuning in. Make sure y'all continue to show y'all support for Black Star Network. Go to blackstarnetwork.com and make sure that you support us and all that we do financially. Share the content, download the app for free. Do what you need to do to show your love and your support for Black-owned media, i.e. Black Star Network. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of you in my online culture crew, continuing the conversations and having the discussions about these issues. Big shout out to my team, my man Joel. Thank you, Ariel, King Keenan. Thank you. And the control room for making us sound good and look good. So thank you. Stay tuned. Up next is Roland Martin Unfiltered. Follow me on all social media platforms at The Real Farajii. I love to connect with y'all. Seriously, I want to connect with y'all. So follow me, The Real Farajii on IG, Farajii on Twitter, and Farajii Muhammad. And I'm still looking for your submissions as we are branching out, wanting to bring your voices on air. Tell us what we're missing. You can email us that at Farajii at blackstarnetwork.com. If you have an idea of a story you want to talk about, send us your bio and just email it to me at Farajii at blackstarnetwork.com. With that being said, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. And God willing, we'll talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Have a great afternoon and a wonderful evening, family. Peace.